Alrighty, so I have put about 150 hours into Borderlands 4, and I felt now was a good time to be able to speak about the game, as I've maxed out two characters, I've played as all the classes, and I have a general idea, I would say, of the pros and cons of the game. And for some context, I love Borderlands, Borderlands 2, even Borderlands 3. I have my gripes with Borderlands 3, especially the story. I felt they were trying to be too grandiose, you could almost say, have a little bit too much shock value. They said, hey, we need to bring back the Vault Hunters. What can we do? Remember in Borderlands 2 how we killed Roland? Well, let's just do that again, but make it not so impactful. And I loved the gameplay of Borderlands 3. I thought a lot of the mini games were very fun. The DLC, in my opinion, was very fun. It just didn't give me that same satisfaction as Borderlands 2. And I played Tales from the Borderlands. I thought it was pretty alright. It's been a long, long time since Borderlands 3. In that meantime, we have also had Wonderlands, which, again, overall was fun, but because of a lack of content, it died out so fast. And so, it's been about 6 years since Borderlands 3. I told myself when I saw the first trailer for this, don't get too excited. Remember what happened last time. I had found myself overly excited for Borderlands 3, and then it kind of fell short. This year especially, though, I had been falling into kind of a gaming rut, and I told myself I need something new. So I saw some gameplay footage. I said, alright, you know what? I'll buy it. Nothing special, no $100 edition, just the base game. That's it. And right from the get-go, honestly genuinely surprised. Perhaps it's because I had such a bad expectation going in. The introduction mission story, great. It really sets up this mystery, this threat. I said, oh, okay, we're going into something else. And you get through the prologue, it's real intense, it's taken super seriously, and then you get to actually start the game in the free roam area. And it was just something where you're not on Pandora anymore. Could they have still left you on Pandora? Sure, but this truly changes the story. I don't even believe you're in the same solar system. I know you're in one of the 6 galaxies, but I cannot recall which one it is. But you are on the planet Kairos, a prison planet, basically, ran by one person, the Timekeeper. And so you are given a bolt, which basically everyone on the planet has. It's a way for the Timekeeper to control anybody at any time. He can literally just on a whim control your entire body. Some people have ripped him out. Some people, they still haven't been, but they haven't been controlled in a while. And the Timekeeper, he lets a few people do their own thing. He's almost curious seeing what they'll do. And his idea of order and Vault Hunters bring the chaos, all that. Almost Handsome Jack-like, but no jokes. He's dead serious, doesn't joke. Now, what's interesting, though, about this game is it is not just the Timekeeper, the big bad, that you have to deal with. He has technically 3 main world bosses that you have to get through first. One is very much one of his lackeys. The other one is not his lackey, but he's so psychotic that the Timekeeper kind of just lets him do his own thing. The other one, also, they don't really have a mutual understanding with the Timekeeper, but it's the Ripper Queen. She is in charge of the Rippers, who rip out their bolts so that they cannot be controlled, but they also they're basically psychos. So you have these 3 distinct bosses, 3 distinct boss fights, 3 distinct story paths that lead to the Timekeeper. And I will say, it was honestly kind of disappointing that the first boss fight, I can't remember the guy's full name. I think it's Idolator Soul. Very fun fight. Very, very fun boss fight. I really enjoyed how it made me think on my feet. 1 minute he's doing this thing, the next he's doing this. It's very fast. You recognize the patterns, of course. Everything is pattern recognition. But doing that boss fight the first time, I really, really enjoyed it. The Ripper Queen fight and Vile Lictor. Vile Lictor's fight, I thought, was pretty standard. It reminded me a lot of a Diablo boss fight. Specifically, I believe, Belial in Diablo 3. And the Ripper Queen was pretty alright, but again felt very easy, almost bullet spongy. And of course, there's almost little bits of each boss fight that come back for when you fight the Timekeeper. The Timekeeper is a 2-part boss fight. That's fantastic. But I found the first part of the boss fight incredibly more challenging than the second part. But even with that being said, I found the fight with the Timekeeper not that hard and not much of a spectacle. I suppose in Borderlands 2, when you fight the Guardian, roughly the same thing. You know, the Guardian peeks out of the lava, shoot it in the chest, okay, keep going. It was just a little disappointing that the 3 world bosses leading up to the final boss were a lot more enjoyable than the actual final boss of the game. And when you beat the final boss of the game, there is actually the real boss fight, I suppose you could say, directly after it. It's semi-tiring in my opinion, as you do this climactic final boss battle, and then it immediately has you go into another boss battle with someone else again. And I felt the pacing was a bit off for that, but I get it. And I won't spoil the Timekeeper's lore. I was surprised by it. I didn't expect it. If someone did expect it, good on them. I found it as a welcome surprise, and I really like what it's potentially setting up. As confusing as it is, from what I can gather, I do really, really enjoy it. And the story, I would say, isn't necessarily as linear as past games, as you fight the first world boss, Idolator Soul, but afterwards you have the choice. The world basically has 4 areas. You have your starting area, you have a path to the left, path to the right, and then you have the middle, which is the Timekeeper City. You unlock that towards the end. The starting area is, pretty standard, grassy area. You have your psychos. Very more calming introductory area. If you go to the northwest, it's the desert Ripper Queen area. If you go to the northeast, it's the more frozen landscape of the Augurs, which are cyborg people, basically. And so, change of scenery was great. I enjoyed it. Did they really do much with it? Not really. In my mind, you would think you'd go to the snowy area, and there would be unique snow creatures or snow NPCs, snow enemies. If you went to the desert area, it'd be very, things like, I don't know, a dune-looking thresher in the sand area. And then the snow area would have Yeti-type monsters. Just a little bit more of a variation. I found myself going between the different landscapes of the map and not really seeing a big key difference between them, besides it just being visually different. Enemies stay the same. I have the music blasting. None of the music necessarily catches my mind when I change landscapes, whereas I felt in Borderlands 2 especially, every place you were going had just a very distinctive style of music. But just like the old games, but amplified even more, each area has your main quests, side quests, and now we have world bosses, which I do not remember from Borderlands 3. I could be misremembering, but it was a nice addition. Basically, these bubbles pop up randomly throughout the map, You have to stay within these bubbles to fight the local world boss or world event boss. And if you get kicked out of the bubble or die, that boss is gone. You don't get to fight it again until it respawns elsewhere. But it's a much harder thing. Sometimes the whole point of the world boss is meant to push you out of the bubble, so you have to think about that. And this is totally optional, but by doing so, you heighten the chance of unlocking good loot from killing those world bosses. You now also have instantly deployable vehicles. They look roughly the same, and I actually did not play co-op at all in my 150 hours so far. But, you know, in the older games, when you drove a vehicle, there were always 2 to 4 seats. None of these have other seats as far as I can tell. And so if you're playing with your friends, you all have your own vehicle, which for the most part doesn't sound bad. But I know there's going to be a few people who enjoyed where it's you and your friend, one of you drives, one of you shoots. It's kind of a nice little co-op thing. There are different body styles. I found the larger body styles very inconvenient, and so I've just stuck with a very, very slim motorcycle body style, basically. And this time, there are actually different kinds of engine settings that you can choose, unlock and choose for your vehicles. And so that was nice, although they roughly all do the same thing, and their stats aren't that different. So I've basically just picked one and stuck with it because I don't care. But it is very, very nice to be able to summon my vehicle anywhere I go, instead of having to spend time running to catch a ride. Now, that doesn't mean I hated the catch a rides. I'm just curious how they would have done the catch a ride considering Scooter is dead. I know a lot of people didn't know that because they never played Tales from the Borderlands, but there is that. There are also more random collectibles around the map. You can find bolts from previously dead NPCs, the Cult of the Vault signs. There are echo logs and diaries from RJ, the Vault Hunter that you meet at the very beginning. So there are things for you to go around and look for. There's huge loot chests that spit out, 15 items. They are on the map, but just because they're on the map doesn't mean they're easy to get to. Because another thing this game introduces is double jump and grappling, which I think grappling since Halo Infinite has kind of been more of an accepted thing. So now, platforming is even more of a thing in this game. You will be grappling a lot. You can grapple things like cans to throw back at people to make them explode. Sadly, you cannot use the grapple on enemies, which would be really fun. But the whole point now is, let's say there's a safe house. You will be double jumping. Gliding is a new thing. When you double jump, you can hold the jump button and you actually glide. So there's a lot of places where you go, how do I even get there? Figure it out. You do grapple, you do glide, double jump. Eventually, you will find your way. It was nice overall. There were some challenging ones where I genuinely didn't understand where I was supposed to go, because even when I would put a marker guide on the map, it would just show the marker guide through a wall I couldn't go through. So, you gotta use your brain. And it was just nice, and a nice addition to be able to vault over things a little better now when you're jumping for your character to grab a ledge and things like that. But the grapple mechanic, I really enjoy it. I think it adds to the game, and they start giving you some cool challenges, as in jump backwards, grapple down, or grapple up. It'll launch you, and then while you're launched, you can now do a special melee move. Every character has it. If you're high enough in the air, you can slam on the ground. So just, again, little new additions that can go a long way. And so in speaking with that, our 4 new Vault Hunters are Rafa, the Exo Soldier, which I maxed out. He was my second character I played as. I really like the idea of cyborg soldier, basically, with either guns coming out of his back or swords, or even pistols by his hands. Amon, the Forged Knight, which was the first one I played as, and I think is probably a lot of people's first introductory character they're gonna pick. Very tanky, very melee focused, very heavy damage focused. And by the end, when I maxed him out, I had it where I can summon 4 flying melee weapons that go around and attack people. And the third is Vex, the Siren. Very unique Siren powers, I will give it that, because as much as I liked playing as Maya in Borderlands 2, I felt her Siren powers were kind of visually lacking. Now, when I played as Amara in Borderlands 3, I loved it. I thought her powers were very cool, visually and effectively. In this one, very almost eldritch horror Siren powers. And then you have Harlow, like a tech soldier, techie, with a bunch of gadgets and stuff. I've barely played as Harlow, and I've played Vex for a few hours. My plan is to get all 4 of them to level 50, so that when DLC comes out, I can just start back on any of them. There is a mode after you beat the game where you can do load new character, and it automatically loads them to level 30. But whenever I tried it, they seem to never level up past 30. But then when I play on a normal character, going through the whole story, the character goes all the way up to level 50. And so I was a little confused by that, but it's not a big deal. But there's all kinds of, skill tree guides online if you feel like doing that. For the most part, the skills are pretty easy to understand and, do your own thing. Just like Borderlands 3, you have 3 skill trees to pick from. So, yes, you have one power, but it's 3 different versions of the power. And so for Amon, that he has rocket punches, or a whip and a shield, or 2 giant melee weapons you can summon. I did those. I tried the other skills for him. Wasn't a big fan. For Rafa, same thing. I did the Peacemaker cannons because I wasn't a fan of a melee build for him. I don't like being that close to enemies because you're probably going to keep going down. I didn't really care for the pistols. I love the backpack guns he has. You turn them on, auto aims, basically as aimbot. I did follow a build online for him, and it's basically created it where my skill never runs out, so it just keeps going virtually forever until all enemies are dead, and it'll finally stop. But I've got to Vault Hunter level, Ultimate Vault Hunter 5 with him. It was kind of tough, but overall, man, very, very nice. And he's now my go-to character. And so you have 4 distinctive characters to choose from, just like in Borderlands 3, even Borderlands 2, you can change their helmets, their paint style of the colors of their outfit, and you can choose one other body outfit for each one. For Amon, I really liked it. Their other outfit is just what looks like prison clothes. For Amon, I think it works. For the other ones, when I looked at it, it's honestly very lacking. I do wish, considering that there are about 15 to 20 different helmets you can unlock, that they would have at least had 5 different body outfits that you can choose from. I really don't know why they hate doing that in all these games. But you do get a lot of different styles, like color styles you can do for your characters, and those are pretty neat. Some will be, like a lo-fi, I don't even know if that's the right word, like 8-bit retro synthwave purple color scheme. I have one for my Siren, which is like a blood splatter. So her cloak looks like it's just splattered in blood, and it's got this nice white shaded color that the blood splatter is on. So there's cool things like that. Customization will get you a decent ways. And the helmets are locked behind certain missions and storylines and goals, so you do those, which will kind of lead me into something else here in just a second. I did want to mention, I was really hoping they would have a little bit more gun customization in this game. They do not. I understand a big point of Borderlands is to find different guns, and they love saying a gazillion guns, whatever. Me personally, I think you could still do that overall, but let us swap out some gun parts, because they love saying now in this game, Jacob's license parts or TD or whatever, and it almost would make you think you could mix and match a few parts, so it's, oh, I have that gun part, but it's still the same. You find a gun, that's the gun. You can't customize anything besides it's the skin. But yeah, customization, in my opinion, could be better, but it's a lot better than it has been. But moving on to missions, a very interesting thing in this game is that a lot of side quests have continuous storylines as you go through the main storyline. And it doesn't inherently tell you, hey, there's another mission in the storyline. You finish it thinking, okay, and then later on you go to a different part of the map and it's a continuation of that. Or sometimes other missions will reference other missions you've done earlier in the game. I thought that was really neat. Everything felt like it was more important and that everything is interconnected. And another unique thing which I think some people didn't like is that you can replay missions now at any time. Or when you're replaying the story, you can skip to certain missions that you want to do. Me personally, I love playing through the story as a whole, so every time I create a new character, I'm just going to play through the whole story again. I think it's good for people who want to do a lot of the collecting and game stuff and not have to go through the story again, because Ultimate Vault Hunter mode is quite different in this game. I really liked Ultimate Vault Hunter in Borderlands 2, where it's just, hey, play through the story again through this difficulty. I guess a lot of people felt that was boring and took too long. So how they have it now is once you beat the game, you have to do certain criteria to unlock Vault Hunter mode, the next one. And so there are these things called wildcard missions, where you replay certain key missions, but it has a bunch of random modifiers, which is very neat, unique. So it might say, hey, to get to Ultimate Vault Hunter level 2, do today's wildcard mission, and also go fight these 3 other side quest bosses on this difficulty, and it'll unlock Ultimate Vault Hunter level 3. You go, okay. So each level has, I would say, 3-4 objectives to unlock the next one. And a lot of them are basically, in the world, there are mines and little boss areas that aren't the randomized world bosses. It's basically like mini raid bosses. And so to get to the next Vault Hunter mode, it'll say, hey, go fight that guy again. Because what happens is all these bosses, when you go fight them the first time, you'll unlock Moxxi's Encore. So anytime you go back to those bosses, you just pay some money for Moxxi's Encore, and it'll reload the boss, but give it a better chance of dropping better loot. And I would say just about all of them, if you grind them enough, will drop a mythic, an orange tier. So to level up Ultimate Vault Hunter, you'll definitely need a lot of money saved up. Go to each of the objectives. Unfortunately, it is a little annoying when you click on the challenge. There is no, auto show on map. That kind of frustrated me because a lot of these side world bosses I had already killed. I had, the icon unlocked, but I couldn't for the life of me remember where exactly it was on the map. It does say under the challenge, hey, this boss is in, the northwest corner of the map, or just in this region, blah blah blah, and you kind of have to search around. I suppose it's not the worst. I just I'm used to other games where, in my opinion, it helps a lot just by saying, hey, show me on the map. Boom. Travel to it. And a lot of these, because they're, you know, kind of like raid bosses, you can't just go directly to the boss. You have to go through the passageway, the whole facility or mine, whatever, to get to that boss again. So be prepared for that. But I found myself thinking, wow, you know, I did it in a day. I went from Vault Hunter 1 to 5 in a day because it actually really wasn't that hard. I was genuinely surprised when only a handful of the objectives were genuinely challenging and everything else was quite easy. And I did all that solo. So I do feel kind of iffy about that. I will say another addition to going back to skill trees is that, and I don't recall this in Borderlands 3, you now have your action skill, but you also have a second toggle for your action skill on most of the characters. Like for Amon, for example, his action skill summons the twin axes, swords, whichever one you pick. And so you press the skill button, it summons those. I can melee with those, or I can hold the action skill button and he actually combines them and throws them like a boomerang. And then I can press the action skill again, depending on the skill tree, and I can launch flying swords. So your action skill isn't just a click and it does its thing. There's more features for it. For Rafa, with my Peacemaker cannons, yes, I press the action skill button to summon it. But then if I press it again, just a tap, it does a enhanced critical hit damage mode. And so I'm sitting there tapping it. So that is very, very nice. It just gives you a little bit more to do in combat because, yes, you can crouch, slide, you're grappling around, you're hovering around. You can strafe now, which is phenomenal. Jumping and strafing out of the way is super, super beneficial. But it just goes a long way. Because you could say Borderlands is semi-dated. But there is just something, just enough that they've added where between gliding around, grappling around, strafing, sliding, and these different things you can do with your action skill, that it really keeps the momentum up. And now, I mean, I go out of my way to find fights. I wait for NPCs to spawn because I love turning on the Peacemaker cannons, having them do the critical damage. I've got a mythic rep kit, which is your new health system. And mine is a special one that has 3 charges. And so it all kind of balances out with each other because every time I heal, it lessens my cooldown time. So if for whatever reason my Peacemaker cannons do go offline, I can just spam my health and automatically have it summoned again. And then it goes hand in hand with the artifact I have for my character, which says anytime I use health, if I don't have a grenade filled up for my grenade slots, bam, it automatically summons one. And so, you know, a lot of synergy, a lot of things you can do like that. And I mean, that brings me on to the health system and the ordnance system. There is no longer med kits that you buy from a vending machine or really even pick up on the ground. You can sometimes pick up health packs. It's not really a thing in this game. What it is you now get a health gun injector and you inject yourself, and it has all kinds of different status abilities depending on which one you find. Some have only 1 charge and it's a 15-20 second cooldown. Some, like I just mentioned, have 3 charges and the cooldown is super, super low. I mean, some will say it has 2 charges and anytime you use one, it'll automatically bring back a grenade, or your reload speed goes up, or you can sprint faster, you do more damage. You know, cool little things that just add even more to building out your character to the ultimate Vault Hunter. And for your ordnance slot, which is always where your grenade went, I think they did a really good job changing this when it came to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Because in Wonderlands, you had your left gear spot and right gear spot. So I think I know what they were doing. In Borderlands 4 now, yes, there are grenades you can do to your right bumper skill. But there's also throwing knives, automatic turret cannons, shoulder-mounted turret cannons, a disc launcher, bazooka, a beam weapon, and a weapon that shoots blobby orbs that explode. That has super changed a lot of things as well, because for the longest time I kept using grenades and I went, what is this thing? You know, I kept going, while I would pick up these cool big weapons and I would go, where? I don't see them in my weapons choices. So I went to the ordnance slot and realized, oh, okay. And for a lot of these, man, you can do some cool things. I tend to use I cannot for the life of me remember what they're called, but they shoot giant orbs that explode. You might get about 12 shots, so you just jump away, glide away, launch that, shoot it, does insane AoE damage. It is incredible, but that doesn't mean I'm knocking on the grenades. The grenades do a lot too. You'll have grenades that can do its bouncing Betty. They roll, they spawn other grenades, they can cause black holes, so many things. When I first played as Amon, I found these throwing knives and it took me forever to get rid of them because anytime they touched any surface, they would create a black hole. So what I would do is just find an area with a bunch of enemies and just throw those at their feet, and it would just spin them into one giant black hole. And then as Amon, I would do my holding action skill, which is my boomerang twin-bladed axe. And it'd go right through them and just huge explosion. Bam. All this damage. It was a nice mix. And so, again, just so much more of a synergy and really, really building out your character and doing so much with it. And, I mean, do I feel like I got my money's worth? Absolutely. I'm 150 hours in and have only maxed out 2 characters. I'm going to be maxing out the other characters. It's a very fun game to play. Does it feel dated? I mean, I guess, but I don't have a problem with that. It just, it feels like an updated Borderlands 2. And the open world doesn't feel too open that there's nothing. There is always enemy spawning, random world bosses, just patrols, and you can now do bounties, which will be, hey, go kill 10 of these people or these creatures, or go find me this, go find me that. And it just, I love it. I welcome Borderlands 4. I think Borderlands 3 caused enough of a stir that it kind of honestly helped people look at this game a little bit more in a positive light. But in the end, it's just genuinely a fun game to play. One day when my friends buy it, we'll play it together. That'll be super fun. Playing it solo has overall been fun. I do wish you could spawn a bot follower. Like if I'm playing Rafa, I could say, hey, load me a level 50 Vex with this skill tree as just like a bot Vault Hunter follower. So I didn't necessarily have to rely on, when are my friends going to get on, this, that, and the other. But that's, that's just me, I guess, being nitpicky. But in the end, would I say it's worth $70? I would personally say yes. I really hate how all these games are $70. But you're going to get your money's worth if you play the game how it's intended. Go look for those echo logs. Go do the side missions. Take your time. I promise you, so much of the writing has improved. So many of the side missions are so well written and genuinely so good. There is one towards the beginning with Claptrap. I was genuinely shocked to not see Claptrap joke for once and be serious. It actually you know, it got me. I was like, wow, I'm good on these people for writing coherent things. So that's going to be it for me for this video. I recommend you give it a shot. New DLC, new Vault Hunter comes out, I think, next January or February. I'm excited for that. But until then, that's going to be it for this review. Thank you for watching. I'm out.